Hey, everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today to talk about the Mercury retrograde happening April 1st through April 24th, 2024. It is technically the second Mercury retrograde. We started the year in a Mercury retrograde. And this retrograde is happening in the sign of Aries. And we already have a lot of action going on in the sign of Aries. We know that the nodal structure is in the Aries Libra axis. So this is indicating soul's yearning and a soul's habit in many ways. We see Chiron has been in Aries for quite some time, really bringing to the forefront any wound we have about ourselves and transforming that wound into the hero energy that Aries represents. Mercury itself represents what we think, how we speak, how we interact in our everyday lives with our colleagues, our siblings, our cousins, our extended family, our neighborhood, how we drive on our roadways. It also indicates how we take in information. So Mercury, as it's going to spend most of the month retrograding in the sign of the ego, the sign of self initiation and drive, this is going to be very powerful because we also have Jupiter and Uranus coming closer and closer together throughout the month of April, where we will see them be exact for quite some time, the 21st degree and the 22nd degree, before ultimately Jupiter moves on into the sign of Gemini. So this is going to be very significant because on some level, Jupiter rules broader thought, philosophy, higher education. On the other side of the spectrum is Mercury, which is rules Gemini, which is, again, those everyday activities, the small details that I have to pay attention to or I get to pay attention to. So I think this is very powerful because as Mercury is going backwards in the sign of self, there's going to be epiphanies, opportunities for reflection, opportunities to observe and then come to a conclusion that brings a new sense of awareness. And that awareness is going to bring in new opportunities for me to use my skills, my voice, my talents to create safety, security, a sense of flow within my material resources. I think this is very powerful. When Mercury is traveling through Aries, it tends to make very quick decisions. It tends to jump to conclusions. It can even express itself in a very unfiltered way, which can appear to be either cold or callous. So, this Mercury retrograde is giving us all an opportunity to see how we are showing up. Are we pacing ourselves? Mercury rules both Gemini and Virgo. When it's in the Gemini energy, it is in a more masculine energy. And when it is in the Virgo energy, it's in a more feminine energy. Here, we're starting this retrograde at the Gemini degree. It will go all the way to 15 degrees before Mercury moves forward again. This is another Gemini degree. So this is very much a retrograde focused on how I assert myself within my everyday life and the interactions I have with the people in my everyday life. Let me move forward a little bit here throughout the month, because what we're going to see is there's a cluster of planets in this neck of the woods here, in Pisces, in Aries, and in Taurus. So what we're seeing is as the planets move through Pisces, we're getting to go back into that sort of ancestral quiet place where we reconnect with the higher parts of ourselves. This is where we meditate, where we spend time alone and really reflect on our own creativity. At the time of this retrograde, we see Venus and Neptune are conjunct. Again, 27 degrees. This is the Gemini degree. What do I think about my creativity? How do I express myself? Because this can also feel a bit divinely guided, divinely inspired. there's very much a feeling of being a writer here, being an orator, being able to even be a teacher that emotes in a way that inspires the students, her students, however you want to put it. Thinking of Venus here. So as we go through this Mercury retrograde, we're going to see that the planets are starting to pile up on one another. And this is, I think, important because they're piling up near the North Node, which is making me ravenous to express myself and to be adventurous and to initiate my inner truth, and very much gives me an opportunity to transform Chiron from a wound of the self into the gift of the self. So I'm just quickly going to sort of go through the month. And as we look at the planets, we're seeing, here we see now Venus has moved over Neptune, but Neptune is here at 28 degrees. Venus is here at 28 degrees. So this is very powerful while we're in reflection of our own thoughts and thinking about how can I expand myself, potentially through technology, through some sort of invention, through some sort of thinking to the future, because Taurus is very much the energy of utilizing my skills, my talents, my voice out into the world to bring in bounty, material resources, and potentially security. Meaning in the form of a secure home, a secure sense of flow within my material resources. Now we see the sun is conjunct the North Node at the 15th degree. I'm very much feeling this theme of how do I let my monkey mind run amok? And am I able to acknowledge the monkey mind and at the same time not succumb to it? Because this growing conjunction is literally demanding that I think broader and in ways that that's almost like as if I was putting money in a savings account for my future. Now I'm putting in my belief system in some sort of, energetic vibrational account where I'm aware of my thoughts. I'm aware of how my brain tends to boomerang back to a place that tethers me to an experience I no longer want to have. Either the same people in my life all the time or the same story that makes me feel as if I'm not being seen. That's the Aries energy, not being seen, not feeling valued or purposeful within my own life, my own world. See how all the planets continue to cluster as we move throughout April. It's very powerful because this clustering is giving us a concentrated, energetic dynamic, which is literally compelling us to step into a broader space and be brave about how our history, even if it was disruptive, is serving us to build a stronger house moving forward. We see Venus has now moved into Aries, where she's considered in detriment because she rules Libra. But I believe that the reason she's in detriment here is because here she's a strong, self-actualized woman. She's ready to initiate, to take action on herself. She kind of doesn't care what other people think here. She might even speak a little bit more direct, not so flowery here. And so traditionally, women have not been thought of, or the feminine energy has not been revered when it's been powerful like this. This is starting to be rewritten. And I think this is another thing that Mercury will reflect upon as these two planets will meet up, one going forward, one going backward. And again, the nodal structure is very much compelling us and inspiring us to think about how powerful it is to have a healthy me in order to foster healthy relationships within my we's, the we of couplehood, the we of professional partnerships, the we of a family. All right, so we're moving forward. We're just kind of cruising through the month here, taking a little look at how the stars are clustering together. Now, this particular chart is in Placidus house system, and the wheel changes every day as a result of, what the structure of it. Now, the point I'm trying to make when I say that is wherever in your chart is the Pisces Aries and Taurus energy, you're going to feel a concentration of that. I happen to be an Aries rising, so this is in my 12th house, my first house, and my second house, technically. So that's also very important because the house structure is going to reflect the environment. So if this was in your fourth, fifth, and sixth house, then you're looking at the environment of your home influence, your own self-expression and joy and entertainment, and how you actually treat your body, your physical, mental health, etc. So that's an important dynamic to acknowledge, is what landscape is my mind traveling through? What is the topography of my thoughts? Am I climbing a mountain, and am I on the sailing on the seas, is the way I want to put it? Or am I in the desert of my dreams and all I see is dryness? This is an important dynamic to be aware of, because this is where Uranus and Jupiter can really liberate you and bring you into a new dynamic, where you start to really see how sometimes this divine disruption or these dark spots or challenges, let's just call them, or any sort of unpleasant experience, how that in many ways is sharpening the knife of your mind, sharpening your skills, your instincts. Aries is a very instinctual sign. So here we're wanting to really have our instincts be born from my spirituality versus my human fear. So I think that's very important to pay attention to. Here we go on. Now we see that the moon is going to zip around every month throughout the whole zodiac, but now the moon has joined the party. So there's an emotional aspect going on here. And as the moon throughout the next day or so goes through these two signs, it's going to illuminate an emotional dynamic that could initially feel challenging, and then at the same time, upon reflection, again, offer an epiphany or some sort of revelation that moves the story forward. We see Mars and Saturn having a summit here in Pisces, and I really think that Mars in this energy is sort of like, this is where I see the spiritual warrior, where Mars has had a conversation with Saturn, and I understand to take strategic action is more influential than just reacting to something based on an old history. So I think this is very powerful, because Saturn just got done having a conversation with Venus about building her skills, taking time to really nurture a strong foundation of her creativity, so that as she moved into Aries, she could assert herself towards her dreams. The North Node, as each planet goes by the North Node, it's going to accentuate that planet's energy. So here we see the moon heading towards the North Node and Venus. So I'm going to be ravenous to move my story forward and to feel a sense of my own power and control. Mars Aries energy is ruled by Mars. Mars is a co-ruler of Scorpio. So there's also that layer within the Aries energy as well. We're always going to see sort of a integration of things. So I think this is important to pay attention to. We see that, Mercury hasn't moved much in the first 7 days of the month. And that's partially because, when a planet goes retrograde, it stations to retrograde, and then it has to ramp up to get its speed back up. So here it's been hovering around Eris. Eris I don't talk about much, but she is Mars's little sister. She has been in Aries since the early 20th century, and she sort of represents a willingness to stand up for yourself. She's a bit of a street fighter. She's a bit of a scrapper, but she has a very good heart. But oftentimes she feels as if her heart is not acknowledged, because most people only pay attention to her assertion. Here, we're having a conversation about that, and we see Chiron is not far away. So we're really transforming that power into the Excalibur versus just a willy-nilly sword running around knocking people's heads off. Sorry. All right, let's move on a day or so. We see Jupiter getting closer and closer to Uranus. This energy is going to be felt so powerfully by all of us. And I want to just bring this up because I'm filming this early March, and there has been something going on with Kellogg's cereal, and there is a boycott being called for the month of April which I think is very funny. It's supposed to start on April 1st, and to boycott all of Kellogg's products because the CEO or whoever the head of Kellogg's is made some off the wall snotty comment and about inflation, and if you can't afford to eat dinner, then just eat cereal for dinner. So my point is this is where we would see Uranus and Jupiter come together and create a civil unrest about something in many ways, about an old belief or about even expansion. So as we move through the month of April, we're going to see in our inner worlds a bit of rebellion about where we've been and where we want to go. And we're going to see a new way of rebelling against old structures, which is to use the internet to connect in a larger way, to create a wave of energy, a movement of energy. So that's going to be happening in the background while we're experiencing this retrograde. Let's go on. We're going to start to cook with a little bit of gas here. Mercury's starting to move forward. Venus is creeping up on the north node. This is actually very much, we don't see a tight conjunction here. These people are all hanging out in the same house. A lot of conversations going on. The sun, my ego, how I assert myself in the world. Mercury, how I think, how I speak, how I interact with my world. Venus, my self-worth and my money. And the north node just pushing me to individualize, to entrepreneurial myself, to be bigger than I think I can be. And now we also see the moon is up here with these two planets, really creating a ravenous feeling for wanting to get the story moving forward, or wanting to literally experience within the earth realm that which I have only conceived within my mind. All right. Now the moon is moved off of that, which is interesting because, again, while the moon zips around, takes a month to get around the zodiac, this cluster of planets in these houses are accentuating, exasperating, and expanding the energy in such a way that is really not trying to pull the rug out from underneath us, but more so to illuminate. And through that awareness, new choices are being offered to us. And the new choices are what I think is the quote unquote ascension to a higher vibration. All right, let's move along here. Now we see that Jupiter and Uranus. I mean, this is like they might as well be sitting on top of each other right now. This is so powerful. And while there is not a direct aspect between Uranus and Mercury, Mercury is now at 21 degrees. That is the Sagittarian degree of expansion. Okay. And that expansion is really futuristic thinking. So again, we're seeing this whole theme throughout the whole month of how do I assert myself? Am I asserting myself through anger or frustration or impatience? Or am I being more of a strategic thinker and planning ahead in such a way that I'm taking methodical steps that allow me to feel progress before I actually see the progress within my world? I'm just going to jump up ahead now, like to the 18th. Now we see the exact conjunction, and the sun is about to enter Taurus. I think this is, again, very powerful. We've got Venus and Mercury meeting together with the North Node, really accentuating this theme throughout the month of April. There's a lot of themes, but the theme here on the Mercury retrograde is, what do I think? Am I interacting with other people in my life that are representing where I want to be, or am I somehow anchored into an old story, or am I somehow sitting in an old vibration, even if I feel elevated within that vibration? This conjunction is going to be like rings on a tree. We're going to feel it very closely within our own personal lives, and then we're going to feel it on the world stage as well. And I really believe that this is about liberating our belief system, bringing a new sense of co-creation into our lives and using that as the platform for manifestation. In just a few days, I'm going to jump to the 22nd now. We see that Mercury is almost conjunct the North Node. This is going to make me ravenous. This is a very, very powerful dynamic throughout the day. I'm going to be doing a lot of thinking about my history, about where I've been, about my partnerships, about have I been seen in my partnerships? Have I been seen for my own creativity and my everything that Venus rules here in Libra is going to be accentuated on some level. We also see the quincunxes between Saturn, and then we have this Jupiter-Uranus. The quincunx is a blind spot where the planets don't really see eye to eye. And the focus here is not to see, but to feel. The feeling, the allowing the inner voice to speak louder than the outer voice that you hear with your ears. Because this feeling here is going to be a bit impatient. This is where we could see a little unconscious reactionary stuff going on. This is where you could blurt out something that you don't necessarily it's not that you don't want to express it, but you might want to be more diplomatic about how you do it. And here, this is just going to be a period of time when everything's going to sort of feel inflamed, and your awareness, aka consciousness, aka, being in the present moment, is really going to be the key that turns the lock to experiencing your own evolution. Let's just go to the last day of the retrograde, which is technically the 24th. And later in that day, I think it's early the 25th, we'll see Mercury move forward. So here we have this 15-degree North Node and Mercury, which is the Gemini degree, really thinking even more so, even more, I'm acutely aware of how I want my everyday life to be. And at the same time, we see Uranus and Jupiter at the 22nd degree. This is the Capricorn degree. I'm thinking about the structure of my life. I'm thinking about how I want to move that structure forward in one way or another. And literally, if you have been planning for this conjunction throughout the beginning of the year, you could see things starting to manifest. This Mercury retrograde, oftentimes we say, oh, don't, sign contracts. It's not a good time for this or that. It's really about reviewing the details of things. And here we're not reviewing the details of the outside world. We're reviewing the details of the interior world, the Aries energy. And when we can be authentic in where our own frustrations inadvertently block us, we become very, very powerful. On the last day of this retrograde, as I said, Mercury is conjunct the North Node. Venus is conjunct Eris. Really here, she's willing to stand up for what she believes in and implementing her skills, her ideas, her talents out into the world. And then we see this liberating energy of Jupiter and Uranus. So that is very exciting. We've got a 22, 2 planets at 22 degrees, 2 planets at 24 degrees, and 2 points, a planet and a point at the 15th degree here. I think that this is indicating, again, a progression of thought that leads to bravery in demonstrating and implementing my skills, which brings me more bounty, expansion, good wealth. And it could very well be through technology or through some sort of internet platform or on a world stage. All right, that's it for the second Mercury retrograde of 2024. We've got 2 more to go. Again, my name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer. Here on my channel, we try to focus on the higher vibrations of the planets because they are evolving just like the rest of us. So enjoy this Mercury retrograde. April is a powerful, powerful month, as is all of this year. And I know a lot of astrologers say that all the time, but can't help to say it when it's true. All right, everybody, please like, please subscribe, please share. And if you'd like to get a chart done by me or get an angel reading, my information is below in the description. Have a wonderful April, and I'll see you soon.